come on over to the mat. You'll want to start at the back. We're going to go all the way to the back of the mat to do your roll downs. We're going to have your heels nice and heavy to start. Lift your toes up. See how this goes for your roll downs. Knees are a little bit soft, belly button's in, and we're going to peel all the way down, reaching to your toes. You can have your hands heavy, your head heavy. And just try to keep your toes light or lifted as long as possible, so all the weight is over your heels. And when you get to the bottom, have a big deep stretch, like really push yourself down into it. And then slowly come all the way back up to standing, tucking your tailbone, stacking your spine, rolling your shoulders back. And we're gonna do that again, but this time glue your toes down and have your heels, they'll be connected, but they'll be a little bit lighter. So you're gonna bring your weight over your toes. And we'll peel down again. And obviously you're putting the weight differently on your feet, so your balance might feel a bit funny. But just find the roll down. Heels are light, weight is on your toes. And again, just weigh yourself down to the ground. Get that leg stretch. And then we'll come all the way back up to standing. Now we're going to take one foot. I'm going to take my right foot just like one step forwards. Knees are a little tiny bit soft. And then just drop down and reach to your right foot at the front. And see how that one goes. You should feel a really good stretch to the back of that right leg. And when you're here, you can soften your knees. See how that feels? Straighten them out. Just a little sort of soft knee, straight knee. Excuse me. I'm going to do my best today to spend a bit more time in the stretches because we have an hour instead of the 30 minutes, so we can get a bit deeper into everything. I'm going to hold somewhere, knees are soft, knees are straight, whatever works for you. And then just walk your hands over to the right. And then walk your hands over to the left. And just kind of find the stretch in it, like always. We're just kind of moving around to see where we need to be. Once you find the stretch, just give it a hold, give it a breath. And come back all the way up from that. And we'll change to the other foot. Now you've got your left foot forwards, right foot's back. And we'll do the same thing. Just drop down to that left foot. And just feel nice and heavy. Feel the stretch to the back of that right leg or left leg. And then we'll do soft knees, straight knees. You can work to the right, you can work to the left. And just get that leg stretch. Remember to breathe with it. And then we'll walk your hands over to the right. See how the stretch changes. Walk your hands over to the left. And come back into the center, all the way back up to standing. Walk your foot back. We're going to bring your feet into a turnout. So your heels are not pinched together. They're just pointing towards each other. Toes are turned out. Knees are a little bit soft. Scoop your tummy in. And we're going to drop down and hang just at about below the knees. And let your head feel heavy. Scoop everything in. And we'll sway side to side. So you're trying to stabilize through the feet. So from the hips to the heels is not moving. Just to stretch to one side, stretch to the other side. And you can, as this is getting a little bit easier, you can sort of roll a bit further down to the floor. Just really melt into it. When you get all the way to the ground, we're going to take a deep breath in, come all the way back up to standing. Turn your toes back facing forwards. Heels are glued down. Try not to let your heels lift until absolutely necessary. We're going to peel all the way down, bend your knees as much as you need to, and bring your hands to the ground. Glue your heels down. So you might notice that your knees are really bending to reach the floor. That's fine. Just going to try to find the legs stretch as much as possible. We're going to walk your hands a little bit further away. And then we're going to push your weight back over your heels. So you're making like an A shape with your body. And then you can soften your knees a little bit. Walk your hands a few inches further away. And then again, push your weight over your heels. Stretch your legs out. And we're just going to keep that inching forwards with a little push back to find the stretch. Eventually, you're going to find yourself into a plank. Keep that little inch, little push back. You can inch your fingers a bit further, push your weight back. So now you're kind of easing into a down dog. If your knees need to stay soft for a bit longer, that's fine. Just find the leg stretch, find the stretch through the sides. You'll get to a point where your heels will start to lift. Totally fine. Just keep pushing your weight back. Walk your hands a bit forwards. Let's do one more push back. So walk your hands a little bit further away. And last big push back. Sink those heels down as much as you can. Stretch your legs out as much as you can. And let's come all the way forwards into a plank. We're going to go into, I think it's like a yoga, like a lizard pose or something like that. So we're going to go into that one. If that's not right for you, you can go into a pigeon. And bring your right foot on the outside of your right hand. Drop your left knee down. And have you just slide your hips forwards. You can go off to the left, off to the right. I'm just going to move around in this big hip opening stretch. Kind of like circle around in the hips. Should feel a big stretch through the right hamstring. Hi, Phoenix. I feel a big stretch in the left hip flexor. And now if you'd like, you can try to stretch your right leg straight. So you're kind of pushing back. You can roll your toes up, flex your foot so your toes are up to the ceiling. Really stretch through the back of that leg. Just kind of slide forward. So I'm bending my knee, pushing forwards, straightening my leg, pushing back. When you're straightening your leg out and you're pushing back, I'm going to take my left hip and bring it up and open and then down and closed. And that will change how the stretch is. So I'm just lifting that hip back. You feel like the inside hamstring moving a little bit. I mean, all of these are just kind of suggestions on what feels sort of what I'm feeling like it needs to be, but you're welcome to just try it and then make your own adjustments, sort of find your own space in the stretch that feels good for you. Bend your knee, slide your hips forwards, and then turn your toe out. So now the arch of your foot is pointing forwards. And then we're going to do that same move again, sort of side to side, circling around. Keep breathing. I'm going to curl your back toe under, lift your knee up, bring your right leg across into pigeon. And drop your hips down. You're going to keep your hands onto the mat, have your chest lifted, squeeze your shoulders down, open collarbones, and we're going to drop one hip down and then the other hip down. So just kind of wiggling around through your hips. Just find that stretch through the hip, bum, lower back space. If you want, you can go down onto your forearms. Just melt a bit further into this. I'm still just kind of moving, constantly little adjustments, but feeling like the weight is just like pushing down to the ground. While you're stretching your hips, notice that your shoulders aren't bunching to your ears. Your shoulders are relaxed, your collarbones are relaxed. Really important that your face is relaxed. If your face is tensing up, you'll be tensing up in other places. So try to relax your face as well. So I've got my right knee in the front. I'm just going to twist my chest over my right knee. I'm going to stay on my forearms as well. And again, just melt right into this. If this is pinching at all on the inside, like in the inside hip flexors, you can come up onto your hands. That will take the pressure off. But either one, just a little twist. Come back in through the center, back up onto your hands, curl your back toe under, and very, very, very slowly change legs over. You'll feel like really overstretched in that right hip, so go slowly with this changeover. I'm going to bring your left foot to the outside of your left hand, stretch out your back, bend your back right knee, stretch out your foot, and then we'll do the same thing again. So you can just circle around in the hips, moving side to side. Finding the breath with it. Find a flat back and open collarbones. And compare this side to the first side, like what areas are feeling different? How is it feeling different? Why do you think it's feeling different? A big part of doing this Pilates practice is just sort of mindfulness in your body. And if you'd like, you can go into that straight leg stretch. So we're going to pull back, stretch your leg up. I'm going to flex my foot, so I'm pulling my toes right up to the ceiling. And then once I find that stretch, I'm going to pull my right hip back, push my right hip down. I'm just opening and closing through the hips to deepen that stretch. But again, just find your variations. Just know the goal is a stretch. So do what you need to do to find the stretch. And just remember to breathe as well. Now we're going to bend your knees, slide your hips forwards, and turn your toe out so now the arch of your foot is pointing forwards. And then again, just side to side, forwards, backwards, all the little movements. Check that your shoulders are away from your ears. See if you can lift your chest up a little bit higher. Slowly come out of that. Curl your back toe under, lift your leg up, bring your leg across into pigeon. And we'll stay on your hands for the first bit. You can drop one hip down, drop the other hip down. Just find all your stretches. When you're ready, you can go down onto your forearms. But again, if it feels like it's collapsing in the inside hip space, just stay up onto your hands. And see if you can, just with your breath, weigh yourself down to the mat a little bit more. Now, I should have pointed this out on the first side. I'm just realizing it on the second side, which is a bit late, but just save it for later. My back foot is rolling in. So I'm just going to adjust it so my toes are pointing straight behind me. Pay attention to the parts of your body that are not being used and see what they're doing. Like my foot was just rolling in, my shoulders are bunching up. Just keep, we're focusing on the stretch in the hips right now, but just keep in mind that your whole body is part of this. And just by pulling your shoulders down, straightening out your foot, you might find that you get the stretch in a bit more efficient spaces. I'm just going to slowly twist over my left knee, and you can go up onto your hands if that feels better, or you can stay on your forearms. And just kind of move with it. You can push your right hip down a bit further. I'm going to come out of that, come back in through the center, curl your back toe under, and we're going to go up onto your knees. So I'm just going to bring my knees under my hips and then sit back onto the heels. Hold on to the front of your knees. This stretch is the best shoulder blade stretch. So you guys are there having problems with your shoulder blades, try to do this as much as possible. You can grab onto, now we're here grabbing onto your knees. You can hold on to anything. You can hold on to the edge of a sink and pull back, but whatever you can find to hold on to. Pulling your knees back, you're going to scoop everything in, drop your head down nice and heavy, and just pull on your knees as hard as you can. So I'm trying to squeeze my chest in. So you're thinking about pulling your sternum into the back of your rib cage. And you're going to lift one shoulder up and then lift the other shoulder up. Just pull your weight up to one side and then up to the other side. And I'm pulling back, lifting up, breathing in really, really, really deep, and then changing. And if you really push your rib cage in, push your hip down, you'll feel that stretch in the lower back as well. I'm going to take my right hand to the outside of my left knee. So you're reaching across, grab the opposite knee and pull back. Now bring the same thing, so one shoulder up, one shoulder down, and see how that stretch changes. And we'll change to the other hand. So I'm going to bring hand across, outside of the knee, pull back again, and just move up and down. And we'll come up from that, give your shoulders a little roll around. And because we're thinking about sort of the shoulder blade, we're also going to think about the opposite side of the shoulder blade, which is going to be the pectoral muscle. So we're going to stretch that as well. And take your hands, you're going to rainbow up and really lift up, like you're reaching up to the ceiling, up and out of your hip, and then super duper slowly reach back behind you, but take your time. Like right here is a super intense stretch. And then just slowly, slowly, slowly reach back behind you. The goal isn't getting to the floor behind you. The goal is finding the stretch in the front of your shoulder, in the front of that chest space. And then we'll come back forwards to your knee. I'm going to alternate. Now with this first few, I'm not really twisting too much. As soon as you start twisting, you're focusing on that middle upper back space. So just try to keep your chest as forwards as possible. And then back all the way up. I'm just going to alternate side to side. Take your time with it, reach right up, pull your hand back, keep your chest forwards as much as you can. Feel that stretch all, even like the armpit, chest. Should feel like it's sort of tingling in your fingertips as well because we're stretching out the tendons. Just go at your own pace. It might be that one hand you want to hold it a bit slower, the other one's a bit looser so you don't need to stretch it so much. Again, when we're doing all this stretching stuff, it's just really just checking in with your body, seeing how you're feeling, where it's feeling tight, thinking about why it's feeling tight as well. Once you can kind of find a reason for it, then that will help you kind of prevent it in the future. I'm going to do one more on the other side, and then we're going to do the same thing but twisting a bit more. All right, so same thing that we were doing before, but now we're going to add that twist. So you're going to reach up, but still find that stretch, but now you're going to reach and twist and try to look behind you. So now you'll still get that stretch, but you'll feel it across the middle upper back as well. And I'm trying to do a full breath, so I'm going to fully breathe in and fully breathe out. Just try to keep things as big and stretched out as possible. Let's do one more on each side. And take your time with this last two. And last one. Big deep breath in, breathing out, breathing in, big stretch up, and then back. Give your shoulders a little roll around. See how that feels now that you've done those big stretches. Those are really good. You can do those at your desk, you can do them wherever. Bring your hands out in front of you. You're going to push your fingers away. So you're going to keep your tummy in, pull your belly button in, and just round your upper back around. So like somebody's holding your hands, they're pulling your hands off of your body, but you're scooping everything in and trying to pull back. I'm going to breathe in, float your arms open and pull your fingers back behind you, really opening through the sternum. Deep breath in, and then breathing out and close. Just take your time. So in breath, open, out breath, close. You want this to look as like graceful as possible. And find the length in your arms. I'm gonna do one more. Close, and then you're gonna hold open on this last one. Breathing in, pull your fingers back behind you. Reach right to the floor. Excellent. Try to open your collarbones as much as you can, and we're gonna turn and look to the left, and then look to the right. You wanna take this really small, so we're slowly building into the stretch. Just kind of look one side, deep in the stretch, look to the other side, deep in the stretch, but keep those shoulders pulled back, keep your chest open. And then we'll come up out of that. Bring your hands back up over your head and then down onto your lap. We'll go into a couple little neck stretches. Hands are here just to start. Roll your shoulders back and down. When you roll your shoulders back and down, you might notice that your rib cage wants to like lift open. Try to keep your rib cage closed, but open your shoulders. Excellent. We're just going to drop one ear to your shoulder. And then bow your head down, chin rolls across your chest, and bring your ear to the other shoulder. So we're going to ease into this. So this is the head move. And we're just going to take it slightly bigger as it gets easier. So listen to your body. I'll give you the options on what to do next. But remember, like with our hip stretches, we were really pushing into it. Your hips are quite stubborn and strong, but your neck is really delicate. So we want to just ease into this. If you feel like it's causing any tension or if it feels vulnerable, make it smaller. Smaller is better for your neck. So we're going to keep this head move going, but you're going to bring your hands behind your back. And you can either just bring your hands onto your lower back, or you can hold onto your elbows, whichever feels good. And then again. Remember that your shoulder blades are melting down your back. Open collarbones. Now I'm going to make this head sort of U shape I'm doing. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. So when I bring my ear to my shoulder, I'm going to bring my jaw up to the ceiling. So I'm looking right up. And I'm going to feel that stretch from the corner of your jaw down your neck into the collarbone. And just keep that going. Remember, you've got really good posture. Think of a really straight spine, open collarbones. I'm like a broken record. Open collarbones, relax, breathe. And remember, the rest of your body is involved in this too. Obviously, we're just focusing on your neck and shoulders right now. But think about how you're feeling through your legs. How are your feet positioned? How is your tummy being held? Think of your pelvic floor as well. I'm going to finish this one up so you can drop your head down, give your shoulders a little roll around. Excellent. Bring your hand across your chest. You're going to hold on to sort of your elbow above your elbow, and you're going to pull your arm out of socket. Not actually, but you get the idea. So pull that right away, and then push your rib cage off to the side. You'll feel that nice stretch all on the side and that outside of your shoulder. You can pull your arm up, pull your arm down, and just breathe with it. Keep that going. Stay there. You guys keep going. I'm letting my cat out. He's clawing on the carpet, sorry. And we're going to change to the other side. Multitasking, working from home. You can bring your hand across, pull your arm out of socket, pull right up. When you're ready, you can push your rib cage off to the side. And then bring your arm up a little bit and down a little bit. Give it one more second. We'll come out of that. Give them a little move around. check in after we finish a stretch, just do a little circles, check in, how's it feeling, what's still feeling tight, does it feel like we've fixed the problem, that kind of stuff. Bring your hands up over your head. You're gonna hold onto your elbows. You're gonna lift up, pull your elbow to one side, push your rib cage. I'm really squashing that rib cage in, stretching that one out. And then we'll go to the other side. And then back to the first side. And second side. Perfect. Let's let go of that. Bring your hands out to the side. Perfect. You're going to drop one hand down, stretch one up, so we're like an airplane. Pull the ribs in, stretch the ribs out, reach right up to the ceiling, and then to the other side. Just keep going side to side. Find the length in your arms. Try to make this as big and strong as possible. Now we're going to hold here, and you're going to slightly bow forwards. You've still got those airplane arms. You're stretching, little mini twist, back into the center, to the other side, and then bow forwards. Keep that tension, keep that long stretch. We'll go one more on each side. And again, bow forwards. Back up from that, second side. And then give your shoulders a little roll around. Excellent. Let's keep going with our stretches. Bring your foot off the side. Have your right foot onto your inner thigh. Left foot is pushed far away. I've got my foot flexed next to the side, so my toes aren't pointed, they're off to there. You'll notice that this hip is lifting up. If it's not, if this hip is on the ground, push your knee further away. And you're gonna think about pushing your hip down to the floor. It's all very, very internal. And what I'm doing visually might be bigger than what you need to do, just so you can see it, because it's a really tiny micro movements. So you're gonna push your hip down, and then roll your hip back slightly, and then roll your hip forward slightly. So that's the move. You can have your hands wherever feels comfortable. If you feel like this right knee is lifting up, try to keep it down. So bring your hand to even hold your knee down. So we're just rolling your hip forwards, rolling your hip backwards, and you're feeling the stretch, really internal, all where the leg connects into the hip. Any spots that are grabbing your attention, just hold it, give it a breath, give it a minute, and then keep moving. With these little tiny internal stretches and movements, always let me know sort of before class or after class if it makes sense, if you're feeling like it is working for you. And if not, I can do little mini workshops with you at any point. See if you can push your knee, as it's getting easier, push your knee a bit deeper and heavier to the floor. So that knee's like pushing right down into the ground. And then keep rolling through. We're going to come out of that. We're going to bring, just to stretch out this side now, we're going to bring your foot over across your knee and get the opposite side of where we were just working. So now we're not going to twist with this one. So you're going to pull your knee into your chest, lift your back really tall. Try to bring your, without dropping your belly button from your spine, try to bring your belly button to your leg. And then push your hip down to the floor. And you'll feel all of that stretch. Perfect. You can use both hands to pull in. If you want, sometimes this variation works for some people, other people, nothing. So you can try it, see if it works. You're gonna lift your chest up and then pull back. So you're doing like a pelvic tilt. So I'm sitting right up on my sit bones and then rolling back to my tailbone. And just see how that stretches. Again, it might be useful, it might be nothing. We're going to slowly come out of that. We're going to flip over to the other leg, do it all again. And now that we're working to the second side, compare the second side to the first side. So again, you've got your foot flexed, push your knee away, have your foot away, and you can always adjust your leg depending on how the stretch feels. Have your hip melting to the ground, roll your hip forwards, Roll your hip backwards. For most people, it tends to be that one hip is a lot easier and the other hip just feels like it's absolutely blocked. So just treat them as they are separately. Don't feel like you have to like mirror what you did on the first side. And just keep that pushing back, pushing forwards. And remember that if this knee is lifting up, push it right down. You'll feel the stretch goes more focused. I'm just kind of like hitting the spaces that need the stretch. Give it a second and then rolling back out of it. So I never really hold that deep, intense stretch for too long. I just like push into it and then come back out of it. It's like convincing. We're just slowly, slowly convincing. Now, as this is hopefully getting a little bit easier, see if you can push your knee heavier and further away. Just for the last few little adjustments. And we'll come out of that. We're going to bring that leg over and across your knee and do the stretch again. Opposite hand's going to pull your knee in. Again, we're not twisting, so just keep your chest forwards, lift your back. Remember that your belly button's pulled into your spine, and then you're trying to bring your belly button to your leg. So you're really lifting up that middle lower back. Pull it in a bit closer. Push your hip down through the floor. If you feel like your right toe is lifting up, push your right toe right to the ground. And sometimes that really grabs that stretch. For whatever reason, push your toes down and it really pushes it deeper. Now try this little adjustment again on this side. If it was not useful on the first side, it might be useful on the second side, where you're going to roll back onto your tailbone and then up onto your sit bones. Now it's going to sound really silly because we're spending a lot of time doing big hip stretches and leg stretches. When your body's used to how tight your hips are, and it's used to walking and doing stairs and cycling and doing all that with tight hips, if we really loosen everything up like we're doing now, and then you try to run or walk upstairs, you might feel a little bit wobbly. So just go steady after this class until you kind of find your new balance. All right, let's come out of that. Now we're going to bring your right leg off to the side. Have your left foot onto your inner thigh. And then bring your hands onto the ground in front of you. Check with this foot that it's not rolling in, it's not rolling back. You're just going to keep it straight up to the ceiling. And then just walk your hands to the ground. Find that stretch. Feel the stretch on the inside of your leg. And you can just sort of twist over to the right, twist over to the left. I'm not doing a big twist. I'm actually just kind of keeping the tension on my hands and then like dropping one elbow down and then dropping the other elbow down. So it's really tiny. If you're quite flexible, you can melt into it further. Go onto your forearms and then do that same sort of adjustment. But remember that you are still aware of your entire body throughout this whole process. So check in with the shoulders, check in with the foot. Make sure that you're not tightening in your shoulders to then get the stretch in your legs. So just be cautious of using everything for the move. We're gonna come up from that. Now, if you can grab onto your toes, grab onto your toes. If not, grab onto your ankle, inside of your leg, wherever you can reach comfortably. And you're gonna scoop your waist in, pull your belly button in, try to pull back on your toes. Okay, find that nice little leg stretch. Really pull those ribs in, push those ribs out, push your hip down. We're gonna take your hand, rainbow up. Now take your time with this rainbow because we're still getting that arm stretch, we're getting the shoulder stretch. Anytime it feels like it's catching a stretch, just hold. Pull your rib cage in, push your hip really, really heavy. Now I'm going to start rotating down. And I'm going to hold here because I have a super stretch right at the top of my hip into my lower back. So if you reach to like where the wall and the ceiling meet, that's where you'll probably get that stretch. And then you can slowly twist a little bit further when you're ready. Eventually we're going to get all the way down and you can thread your hand through, but take your time with this. And Keep breathing, keep pulling back on your leg. We'll thread your hand through. Grab the outside of your leg, outside of your foot if you can reach. If you are really flexible and reaching to your foot is easy, make sure that you're not like collapsing into it. You still want to keep that tension. You're still pulling back. Now let's hold your shoulders and hands where they are, and we're going to work through your sit bones. We're going to push your right sit bone down, push your left sit bone down. So I'm just taking my hips. I'm keeping from my hips up really stable. I'm taking my hips and just doing that and that and that and that. So just try to wiggle around in the hips, forwards, backwards, side to side, and see how that grabs your stretches. You'll feel it a lot in the lower back, stretching out the QL. We're getting a good psoas stretch, all those lovely places that are overly tight and overly worked. Now we'll hold your hips, find a spot that feels like a good, stable space to hold. And now we're going to work through your shoulders. So you're going to bring your left shoulder up to the ceiling, open your chest up, and then bring your left shoulder down to the floor. So now I'm just opening and closing, but keeping that pull back, keeping the tension, checking that your shoulders are, they are going to be close to your ears because your hands are kind of up in that direction, but make sure they're not like scrunching, so you still have a nice long neck. Now let's slowly come out of that. We're going to take your time, let go of your hand, let go of your leg, let go of your foot, reach your hand slowly, slowly, slowly back. And we're going to change over to the other side. And bring your foot off to the side, foot as onto your inner thigh. Check that your foot's flexed and pulled up to the ceiling, not dropping forwards, backwards. And then bring your hands onto the floor. And then you can do that little adjustment. So you can kind of twist to one side, lower your elbow down to the floor, lower your other elbow down to the floor. If you are really flexible on this side or on both sides, you can drop further into it, but just kind of bring your weight over to the left, bring your weight over to the right. And keep your sit bones as anchored as possible. Still remember you have a really nice long neck. You're still breathing. And we'll come up from that. Grab onto your foot if you can reach, your ankle, your leg, wherever is comfortable. Pull everything in, push your ribcage up, push this hip down through the floor, and we're going to really take your time with this arm stretch. So you're going to stretch out, really find that length. Anytime it's catching a stretch, just hold it. Reach right up, push your hip down, reach up to the ceiling, pull your ribcage in, and then reach, slowly rotate. So you're reaching your hand to where the wall and the ceiling come together. Find that length in your hand, pull your waist in, take a deep breath in, and then eventually, take your time, but eventually we'll get through, thread your hand through to the other side. But just take your time with this. Now you can grab the outside of your leg, outside of your foot. Make sure you're not collapsing into it, so you keep that tension there. And hold from your belly button up, hold it really stable, and then work through the sit bones. So we're going to push your left sit bone down, push your right sit bone down. You can push it forwards, backwards, just kind of wiggle around in the hips. Find different anchoring points. Keep breathing, keep pulling your belly button in really tight to your spine. We're going to hold in the center, pull your tummy in, and then we'll work through the shoulders. So you can drop your shoulder down, shoulder up and open. And breathe, breathe, breathe. Whenever you find a stretch, give it a full breath, especially here. Really breathe into it, and then breathe out to keep moving through. Give it one more second. And we'll slowly rainbow all the way back up. Take your time, take your time. And out of that. Excellent. A little bit more on the hips, and then we're going to go into some nice twisting. Bottoms of your feet together. Pull them in as close as you can. Open them like a book if you can. Push your knees to the floor if you can. And then lean forwards into it. Remember the open collarbones, relaxed shoulders, long neck. Think of a string. Think of somebody stood opposite you. Imagine that I'm stood here. You've got a string on your head and I'm pulling the string. So you're pulling that string up and away. Somebody's pulling you forwards, and you're going to find that flat back as much as you can. Make sure that you're not bringing your forehead to the ground. You're just pulling forwards into it. And we can go into a little twist. So you can twist and think about your left hip rolling forwards, and then twist and think about your right hip rolling forwards. And you can just hold if it feels good, or you can keep moving through. And come up from that. Let's go really wide with your feet. So you still have your feet together, but make that big diamond shape. They're further away. The further away your feet are, the more this can go into the hamstrings. So you can decide if they go really far away, see how that feels, or you can find sort of like a middle ground. Totally up to you, wherever you feel like it's needed. You're going to lean forwards into it. Still find that flat back. So you're kind of rolling onto your tailbone and then onto your sit bones and then kind of forwards past your sit bones. Like try to lift your bum off the floor. And you can pull off to the right, pull off to the left. Just keep that tension so you're constantly pulling forwards and away. Chances are with these stretches, if one version is easier, the other side will be harder. So if having your feet in this position is a lot easier, the other one where your feet were in is going to be the opposite. And slowly come back up out of that. Stretch your legs out. Sit up nice and tall. Take your hands forwards. We're going to bow forwards and stretch to your toes. And then all the way back up to sitting. Really good posture. And bow forward, stretch. And all the way back up. Nice posture. Now we're going to go into your twist. So I'm going to stretch. I'm going to take my left hand onto the outside of my right foot. My right hand twists open, look over your shoulder, and then sweep back in up to sitting. And then the other hand. My right hand to the outside of my left foot. Left hand swings open and back up. We'll do one more on each side. Stretch and twist. Back in through the center. Last one. Stretch and twist. And back up from that. Nice. Go onto your side. Make a little pillow with your arm. Stack your knees, stack your hips, pull your belly button in. Lovely. I'm going to take this top hand and we're going to start circling it around. Use the first circle to check for the spaces that it's stuck. So we're using this as a bit of a scan. Find the spaces that it's catching, like mine's kind of right there. Once you hit the space that it's a bit stuck, it's tempting for your body to want to roll back, but just keep your shoulder forwards. Keep that pull back. You can even pull your fingers back, open your palm, and just go really slowly through the spaces that it's sticking. And really breathing in and breathing out. Super deep, slow breath with it. And then once it gets a little bit easier, try to make the circle as big as possible. So you're stretching a bit further. I'm going to do the last couple in this direction. So if you want, you can kind of stop the spaces that are still sticking. Just a little side to side. Give it a little extra bit of time to loosen up. Let's reverse your circle. You can swing around, breathing, breathing, breathing. And again, take your time through those spaces that are sticking, or you can always do that extra little sort of side to side movement to loosen it up. Pull your fingers back, really good open palms, super stretching through the hands. And we'll come out of that, give it a little move around. Let's flip over to the other side. We'll do it again, and then we'll go into our big twisting stretch. So again, nice little arm pillow. Knees are stacked, hips are stacked, shoulders forwards, and circle around again. Now, if you are right-handed and left-handed, it's going to change the stretch from the right to the left, obviously. So your right side, if you're right-handed, will probably feel a little bit tighter. So always with these stretches, you're thinking of treating each side as it needs to be treated, but also making notes of like what's different, why do you think it's different, and make little notes on their differences. Again, you can just kind of like pause a little bit, do that little side to side stretch. You can pull your fingers back, really stretch open in the hands. And let's reverse. So this class will be a good one to kind of go back to because it's really just all stretching. So you can go back to it and kind of cherry pick the stretches that you need to do. And we'll do one more big sweeping circle around. Excellent. Let's roll onto your back. Stretch your right leg out, pull your left knee in. We're going to really slowly pull your knee across your body. We're not getting to the floor yet. Just pull your knee up and across your body so you feel that outside of the leg, hip, bum stretch. And we're thinking about melting into this, so we're not jumping into it. We're slowly, 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 as your body's giving in, getting all the way to the floor. And we are going to go all the way to the floor. So once you get to a point, your shoulder's going to want to start to lift, let it lift. If it feels like it's pinching or vulnerable in your back, don't do it. But just try to get all the way down to the ground. Once you get to the ground, that shoulder and back is going to start to lift up. You're going to keep looking over your shoulder, so over your left shoulder. Bring your left hand up towards your ear, really stretching in the chest, pectoral muscles, armpit spaces, and then down. If your shoulder's really high up and your hand's really floating, you can pull your fingers down. If you feel like you're really flexible and your shoulder's not lifted at all, push your knee further away and have your hip roll forwards, and then that will give you more lift in the shoulder. Just keep that sort of sweeping wave movement through the arms. Find the spaces where it feels like it's like catching and clunking, and just hold there a little bit longer. Try to loosen up that space. Really breathe into it. If you're really tight in your shoulders, you could hold this one for a lot longer, but I don't want to overdo it too much. So just be cautious with, if you're doing this in your own time, just be cautious with how long you hold it for. I'm going to slowly come out of that, and we'll flip over to the other leg. So you can bring your knee in, and we'll slowly pull your knee across, but not lifting your hip up for the first bit. Try to keep your hip heavy, and then eventually melting in to the twist. So you're eventually getting to the ground, but really take your time with it. So you get the hip stretch, the bum stretch, and then the twist, and then the shoulder stretch. And you're going to look over to your right hand, so you're looking away from your knee. And then once your knee gets to the floor, you can reach your hand up and just spin around. I don't have space. Just reach it up to your ear and down to the floor. And if it feels like your hip or your shoulder isn't lifted, you can push your knee and hip further away and reach. And then just go really slowly over the spaces that are catching and clunking. If you're right-handed, your right side is going to be a lot tougher than your left. You can pull your fingers down, stretch out through the hand. Remember to breathe as deep as you can. Just slowly stretch a little bit further into, see if you can push a bit deeper, twist a bit further. Last couple moves. And then we'll come out of that. You can bring the bottoms of your feet onto the floor. Have your hands next to the sides. We're going to squeeze up into a bridge. But because we've just like really loosened up like every space in your body, you're going to want to go really slowly through it. So we're going to have your heels heavy. We're going to float your hands up, peel your spine up one vertebra at a time, breathing in and breathing out, melting down, floating your hands back down next to your hips. And breathing in, peeling up, breathing out and down. Last one, breathing in, peeling up. I'm going to keep my hands up over my head for this one and then roll all the way back down. Stretch your hands as far away as you can. Take your time with this little roll down. And then all the way down. Bring your hands next to your sides. Pull your knees into your chest. We're going to rock little circles on your back. Then you're going to bring your right ankle over your left knee, thread your hand through the center, grab the back of your leg, pull into your chest. Push your tailbone heavy. Notice that your left hip isn't scrunching up to your rib. You're pushing your left hip away. And then push your right hip away. So you've got the length from your hips and your ribs. And then you're pulling your knees to your chest. Push your tailbone heavy. You can pull your weight over to the left, pull your weight over to the right. See where the stretch still needs to be held. And we'll change over to the other leg. Thread your hands through, grab the back of your leg, pull into your chest. Remember that you've got that, your waist isn't crunching up on one side, it's held nice and far away. And then pull your knees to your chest. Tailbone's heavy. You can just bring your knees side to side. Find the stretch, hold it, and then move out of it. And let's finish that. We're going to bring your knees into your chest, rolling like a ball. You're going to come up to sitting. And then just sit in a comfortable position. We're going to do a little bit of tendon, wrist, hand stretches to finish off. So I'm just going to sit with my legs crisscross, but whatever's comfortable. Sit onto your knees, sit crisscross. Take your hands out, stretch them out as far as you can, open your palms, and then make a fist. Palms open, really stretch, and then make a fist. This little series that we're doing now, if you're on a computer a lot and you feel like your wrist is getting achy, or if you feel your wrist or hand, this is a little one to do. Now we're going to make a fist, and then do little sort of fist bicep curls. So keep your arms straight and you're just working through the wrist. Arms straight, don't bend your elbows, just the wrist. You'll feel a lot of like forearm, weird stretches. In fact, we're going to circle around and reverse your circle. And then bend again. And then flex again, hands open, hands closed. Excellent. Drop your shoulders down. Take your hands out to the side. We're going to push a rainbow up over your head. Deep breath in. Breathing out, back down. Breathing in all the way up. Breathing out, down. We'll do one more. Big stretch up and down. Now bring your hands onto the floor. Bring the bottoms of your feet onto the floor. We're going to push yourself all the way up to standing. And we're going to go into one last standing twist. Have your heels really heavy. Bend your knees as much as you need to. Bring your hands onto the ground. We're going to straighten out your right leg. Reach your right hand up to the ceiling. Now really open from the sternum. Don't let your hand collapse. Still get that nice twist. And then change to the other side. Left leg straight, left hand reach. And right leg straight, right hand reach. And last one, left leg straight, left hand reach. Back to the ground. Come all the way up to standing. Shoulders back, chest is open. And you guys are done. Nice work.